Today I'm going to be speaking to Hannah Gallagher, who's a former professional rugby player for Saracens and England. How's it going, Hannah? You okay?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It hurts when you say former, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. You get used to it after a while, but yeah, it does hurt a little bit. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Kind of, how are you? How's life at the minute for yourself?
Yeah, no, all good, good, thank you. Yeah, joined new company Harper Wood recently, which is awesome. All about obviously athletes and stuff like that, which we could talk about later. And got a 10-month-old, so sleepless nights along with working hard is always fun. So if anyone hears anything in the background, I apologise. It's bath time.
No, I've been there, done that myself. So yeah, I mean, congratulations on the newborn. How are you finding like parenthood?
Do you know what? I think it's a massive thing. It gives you a whole new purpose in life. It's like playing sport is, when I think about it, it seems like another lifetime. And I loved playing rugby. Obviously, spent the majority of my life training for it, and all my goals were targeted towards it. But having him, it's amazing. Just the love you have for your child. It's like this is better. Like him being born, it's like this is better than like winning a prem or something like that, because it's yeah, so it's nice. I think it's a really nice way to like, feels like I've kind of grown up a bit and transitioned, and
Yeah,
can look back on rugby past and be like, that was awesome, but I love where I am at the moment as well. So I don't have
yeah.
those, oh, I wish I was still playing or doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I can resonate with everything you said there, and I think when you become a parent, it's hard to explain or express yourself in terms of how you feel to people who haven't got kids, because they can only see it at face value. But when you like, obviously, you explaining that to me, it brings back memories in terms of how I felt when I first had my first child, and obviously how I feel now about my kids. And it's something that it's like you said about purpose and things, and you can't explain that to someone who hasn't got kids, because they'll listen and they'll understand to a point, but then they haven't got kids themselves, so they can't compare it to anything. So completely understand
Yeah.
where you're coming from there. You mentioned Harper Wood, so talk to me about Harper Wood and kind of what that involves, and how it's going for yourself.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So we specialize with athletes, so basically helping athletes transition into the corporate world. So where athletes, I mean, we've placed athletes like Tim Strether, Mike Ellery, Henry Taylor, and they're smashing it. Like they're flying in broking, and then we place athletes in finance and banking and recruitment and all these areas where the skills of athletes, like you don't have to have degrees or certain qualifications, because the drive, the coachability, I know these are all buzzwords that people
Yeah,
always chat about, but like athletes, especially in client facing roles, like they're so interesting. Like you go and speak to an athlete, and like like any athlete you speak to has got a really cool story, and
yeah,
like you can resonate with them. But so yeah, we're all about kind of helping them kind of find their next career. And like my aim is to help them transition across, but also make sure that their next career is like as successful as their first, which is always, it's hard to match if you've been elite level sport. So
yeah,
it's not only finding a job that you absolutely love, but where you can really climb the ladder, like earn money if you really want to earn money, and just really find that new identity and purpose, which I think is a massive part of transition. It's finding that new purpose and like really loving what you're doing, because I loved rugby and I didn't think anything would ever give me
yeah,
that like joy. But yeah, I love what I'm doing now and helping other athletes, because I really suffered with my transition
yeah.
and I found it really difficult. And yeah, if I'd have had this help and push towards, or not push, but guide towards like, this is where you'd probably be best suited, you could really do well here, then that'd have been great.
Yeah, same here. I mean, that's amazing what you're doing. I mean, I retired nearly 10 years ago now, and luckily for me, my transition was okay. I took a massive financial hit, and that was probably the biggest burden for myself and my family. But in terms of like moving away from football and finding a job, that was pretty easy. And I think it was made easier because a couple of things, because at an early age, kind of 24, 25, I kind of thought, well, my career, I can't see myself getting into the Premier League or even the Championship, even though I was playing quite well. So I was mentally prepared for kind of having to work after playing football. But then also because my career wasn't ended by injury, it was kind of through my own choice. I think from a physical and mental perspective, that made it easier for me. But even if, say, for example, Harper Wood or some other company like that was around when I was kind of looking to retire from football, that would have been massive because straight away I think, well, okay, I've got an option here. I know Harper Wood or another company, whatever it may be, are there to assist me. So I know that obviously what you're doing, it must be amazing for these athletes to know that, okay, well, I'm moving away from something that I love, or although I may have fallen out of love with their chosen sport, but then they can easily contact yourselves. And I'm not saying the transition period is going to be easy for them or any easier than it would be if you weren't there, but at least they've got you at the end of the phone or whatever it may be an email to maybe aid them with regards to their next kind of process in their kind of journey in their life. So really good that obviously you're there to help them doing that. In terms of the companies that you're kind of associated with, are they actively looking for athletes, former athletes to employ, or is it just something that they kind of maybe consider when you contact them?
Yeah, I think it's mental. I think these days it's like it's all soft skills, isn't it? And people are now after more like the candidate than like the qualification, like and what
Yeah.
they'll bring. So I think now the more you approach companies and say like mention sort of like our candidates and athletes, they're like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Or, oh yeah, we've got a few athletes or ex-pros or ex-Olympians here, and they're really, really interested. And I think it's something that is becoming more and more, it's just more done these days. I think more companies are seeing the value that athletes are adding and how well they're doing. And you only need to see how many athletes, like if you do go through LinkedIn, are now CEOs and things like that. So they're like athletes obviously doing very well. And I think people are becoming more aware to not look at the CV necessarily, but to speak to the candidate and see, wow, like just speaking to you, I'm inspired, you bring so much to the team, or our clients would love you. So I think with that, it's massive. And it's I think also making athletes aware like of what they have to offer, because so many athletes you speak to and they're like, oh, but I can't do that because I don't have a degree in maths or engineering or tech. And it's like you don't need it. Like you're coachable, they can train you up pretty quick,
Yeah.
and then you can fly.
Mm.
So yeah, it's all like for us, I think it's just kind of explaining to athletes how much they have to offer and that employers are looking for them. And that's our big thing, because like I'm not taking anything away from sort of the governing bodies. Like the RPA were great with me when I transitioned. I know the EIS do some amazing work with like lifestyle practitioners. They're all great for their life after sport, and we just like to kind of work alongside them. Like we've got these roles, if you've got athletes that would suit them, like it would really suit someone if they want to get into banking or into broking and things like that. So it's working alongside it, so athletes are always aware should that injury happen or selection happen, or they just want to retire and move on to that next step, that there are roles available and we've got them.
Definitely. And you mentioned something there about like athletes being coachable. And it is something that athletes kind of, when it comes to retirement and transitioning away from their chosen sport, it's like, well, I can't do this and I can't see myself doing that. And it's like, but you can always learn those skills. If you think about how many times during your kind of sporting career where you've been doing one thing or playing in one position, then the manager wants you to play somewhere else, you're probably going to have to learn how to play there or learn how to go through your maybe injury kind of regime in terms of obviously getting fit again and whatever else. So there's different things that you need to learn outside of your chosen sport, which you've already probably done many, many times whilst playing tennis, rugby, whatever your kind of sport is. So like I said, very coachable. And if you don't know something, you can always learn. And that's just something that sometimes these athletes need to be aware of. They may know, especially with kind of podcasts and things being around like mine, that transferable skills are there, and they can see other athletes transitioning away from sport into a completely different field. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have those set skills already to be able to transition. You can always learn new skills. So it's just about being willing to obviously learn those things to give yourself the best opportunity going forward. So you're right in what you're saying
absolutely.
there. In terms of your transition, if you want to just kind of touch on your transition and kind of your retirement process and how that was for you.
The pain. Yeah, sure. So mine was quite confusing one. So I was probably playing the best rugby. I was like 23. I'm 30 next month, so I still say I'm 29.
Yeah.
I haven't hit the big 30 yet. But yeah, so I was playing the best rugby I've been playing. Injured myself at a camp just before the Six Nations, so I'd ruptured my ACL. But was adamant everyone gets back from their ACL, so it's fine. I was just I've always been like stupidly competitive. So I was like, what's the quickest like one of our players has got back? And they were like 9 months. I was like, cool, I'll do it in 8. So I was flying through the rehab. I was in the best shape I'd ever been. I was moving really well. And then, just before sort of the autumn internationals, I was getting back into it. And then, just sidestepped and ruptured it again, but like just busted it completely. And they were like, this one's a big one. This is going to put you out for at least 2-3 years.
Really?
Yeah. So it was just one of those, like I'd spent nearly a year to get it right where I wanted it. The World Cup was the year after. So then I was debating, do I just play without one and just like risk really ruining my knee forever? But I think in the back of my head, it was one of those, like, do you want to run around with your kids and like, do you want to be active? Because like you'll need a knee replacement at 30 if I carry on the way I'm going. But I mean, to be fair, I think even rehabbing it, I was still adamant I was going to come back. I was like, I'll still come back.
Yeah.
And I think as you like take more time, because it's a really long recovery, that one, I just started to focus more on, I built up a PT business, like got married, bought a house, and then you just start to like rugby just started to fade away a bit more, and it just didn't have as much of an importance. And I think in the back of my head I was like, it's only going to go again, like the likelihood is this knee's going to go or the other one will go, and then I'm going to have to go right back from the start. And it's just one of those things. I think like people were calling me an ex-player before I'd formally retired, so I was like, I didn't know how to take it. I was like, oh, I haven't retired though. But so the last time I was on a pitch, was when I was 23, and it probably took me 2, 3, 4 years to actually accept that was the case. And I found that really hard, because I think for those years I didn't think so far ahead for my next career, because I still in my head thought, oh no, like I'm going to go back to rugby, so I'll just do things that I can do alongside my sport, like PT and things like that. So that definitely held me back a bit. But I mean, you learn a lot along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And then what next? So at that point where you thought, okay, well that's definitely it now, and you've got your PT business, what next? What was your kind of next step?
So I mean, then I was just really into the PT business. I was like, well, this is going really well, so I'm going to really grow this. It was like making a lot of money, so I was like, this is great. Did a bit of rugby coaching, which I later was like, you know what, I don't want to do anything to do with rugby anymore. I just like need some time away. But I think it's bad. I'm like a fair weather person now. Like I used to play rugby in the snow, and now if I have a client and it'd be raining, I'd be like, oh, it's a bit wet. Like, can we do this inside? And I just knew the longevity, like with PT, for example, I absolutely love it. Like, I'm a very people person, love speaking to people of all different backgrounds and with different goals and ideas. But I think like the earning potential, again, like really driven. So I was like, the earning potential is only ever going to get me that much. And then I started work with laps, and I was like, I love working with athletes. I love that transition. I love everyone's transition story, because like you said, it's so different, and I love helping people. So I loved that side. And then obviously moved to Harper Wood, where like, I can really help and work with the corporate side as well. So I can like watch athletes kind of go into those jobs and kind of keep in contact and see how well they're doing. So I mean, it was long. It could have been a lot quicker if I'd have probably admitted to myself years earlier that this, you should probably stop. But yeah, like it's great, and I think it's benefit, like hopefully it will benefit other people, like speaking to me from my experience, so they won't have to like faff around as much like I did, and they can go into roles that, I mean, now there are more roles than ever in the corporate sector looking for athletes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's amazing. So then, obviously, you've done that, and then during that period, did you get any help? Because I know you mentioned governing bodies earlier within kind of rugby. Did you get any help from them or anyone else at all?
So with the RPA, they were amazing. I suffered like with my mental health. I was like, my anxiety was really bad. I've probably had a touch of depression, but I like never really thought I did. So suffered with that. And I think what I really struggled with was I just always said to I want to call him a psychologist. I feel like that's the right word. But I was like, I'm only really here. I was like, I just need you to tell me to go back or not. Just make that decision for me, because I don't want to make it. Just tell me if my knee's going to buckle again or something. So that was always my next step. I think I was just in that limbo for so long. And that really suffered. So they helped me out massively with that. They helped like with loss of earnings and things on that side. I didn't use them for the kind of transition. I don't think it was as much. They do massive, especially with the RPA now. They're doing loads on that side. It wasn't as much from my experience when I was playing, but that might have been because I wasn't looking in the right places. But yeah, I've got no fault with them. So that helped me, especially with the mental health side, which is what I always say to athletes. Like, you don't realise, even if you plan to, like you said, like you did, like you plan to stop, it's still awful.
Yeah.
And it can take years to really get over that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even to this day, I don't know why. I see myself as one of the lucky ones. There was no science behind it. I didn't plan. I know there are athletes out there who literally say, right, I'm doing this whilst I'm playing in order for me to then, on this day, retire and then jump straight into what I was doing whilst I was playing. I didn't have any of that. I wasn't really interested in property, no more so than the next man. And then I just found myself applying for a job at an estate agent. And it was similar to what you're saying now with regards to Harper Wood, where I knew that in an estate agent, it's just about learning, not necessarily just learning on the job, because obviously you need to have an element of skill and personability and things like that. But I knew they wouldn't be looking at my CV and thinking, okay, well, you haven't got this degree and you haven't got this qualification. There was things that I knew that I could learn whilst I was on the job in order to get me a bit more qualified and a bit more accredited, if that makes sense. So that's why I went into estate agents, knowing that on a wider scale, the property industry is sustainable and there's different avenues that you can take. So that was just my foot in the door. So I was lucky from that perspective. But again, there was no real science or plan behind that. So I just kind of fell into it, to be honest, and I was lucky. And also, I think what helped me was my first interview. I had a second interview at the same company, and then they employed me. So I didn't have that rejection situation. I think if I did have that and then had maybe another kind of rejection, maybe a third, then I'd be thinking, what happens now? But I didn't have that, so it was just a lot easier for me from that perspective. So I think really, really lucky from that point of view. In terms of yourself, kind of what transferable skills do you think you've taken from kind of rugby into kind of what you're doing now, and obviously PT and things like that?
I mean, so many things. Like obviously with sport, like you're very goal driven. So with everything, you're always like with Harper Wood, like I have goals. Also, I was an athlete, like so with the Harper Wood side, like I can speak to athletes. I know exactly what they're going through, what they've been through. So in that sense, that always helps. But yeah, so obviously the drive, I think the drive, like with my PT business, I wanted a successful business and I wanted it quickly. So it was putting in that work ethic, like with training, for example, with rugby, I wanted to be the fittest, the fastest, the strongest. Definitely wasn't the fastest. But yeah, so it was always wanting to be the best. So using that and transferring that across was massive. And it's the same with Harper Wood. Like we're a new company and You just want it to fly and grow and progress as quick as possible. And we've got an awesome team to do that, and everyone believes in that same value. I mean, that, like you said, there are so many transferable skills. And I always it's like you feel bad for listing the buzzwords. But I think, drive and just not wanting to fail. And if, for example, something hasn't gone your way, for example, if you went for a job interview and it didn't go your way, you just go again. Like in rugby, if you miss a kick or miss a tackle, you just go again, you learn from that, and you just get better and better and better. And that's how you become elite. Elite people have made so many mistakes, and you learn from them. You don't quit. So, and I think that's where they do so well in the corporate world, is they learn, and if they make something wrong, it's that's fine. What did I do wrong? Wicked, won't do that again. And they just learn very, very quickly. It's not I did that wrong, I'm rubbish at this, I'm going to quit. So I think all being stubborn, really. I'm going to be the best. What does it take? I'll do it.
Definitely. All of those things make complete sense. I don't know much about kind of the rugby fraternity. So speaking from a football perspective, especially when I was playing, retirement and the process behind it was always, I think anyway, was always seen as a bit of a negative, and it carried negative connotations with it. Do you think it's the same in rugby? Has it changed? And do you think it needs to be approached in a different way if it has got elements of that within it still?
Yeah, I think in women's sport it's sometimes different, because I think women leave because I want a family. I'm getting on a bit. And also I think with rugby now it's luckily it's becoming more professional. But when I was playing, I was saying to someone the other day, when I started at Sarries, I was paying 250 quid subs a year to play. We were paying to play. So it was different. We were technically amateur. Same with England. When I started playing with England, it was amateur. So I think more of the emphasis was on work. So it was kind of as you kind of progress more in your career alongside rugby, people just kind of naturally faded out. I just don't have time to commit to both, and one's paying the bills and one isn't. Now, I think it's becoming, especially with rugby as well, there's so many injuries. So I think again that's a lot more people kind of forced into it than decide. But I think it's getting better. I know exactly what you mean, and I'm sure in football it's slightly different. I think female sports I think is always slightly different as well because of that side.
And do you miss playing at all? For one, I don't miss it at all. Not saying, and I don't want that to sound negative, because I loved it and I was immersed in it when I was playing. But I also had, I was conscious of being me first and then the athlete second, which I've said and I'll continue to say many, many times. But I didn't. When I stopped playing, I was a bit of a relief, not because it was I don't have to train or I don't have to play. It's kind of a relief that, okay, well, I've got a job now and it's kind of a respectable job. Now I can move on. So when people ask me, what are you doing now? It's okay, well, I'm working and I've got X, Y, and Z and I'm doing this. So from that point, I was so happy. And obviously I've moved on and progressed from there. But I don't miss it at all. So I don't, when it comes Saturday, it's okay, well, I can chill and watch football if I want to, but I don't miss going out and playing and training and things like that and all the elements within that. So do you miss it at all?
That's a good question. If I was back at Allianz or if I was at Twickers or something and stood on the pitch, I'd want to play. But I think, like you said, I don't miss, with elite sport, it's just constant pressure. You're constantly being watched and scrutinized, and I don't miss that at all, because you're just constantly thinking about the next game and not only am I going to perform well, am I going to get selected, am I all of this, am I going to go to the next World Cup and she's playing well, is she going to kick me out? Always, which I mean, that kind of stuff again transitions really well because you're always on top of your game, because you're always wary of what's happening. I don't miss constantly being watched at camp and what have you had for dinner, or she dropped that ball and things like that. I don't miss that. But then at the same time, I couldn't just go and play Sunday league rugby for fun. I wouldn't see it as fun because it was a job. So to me, I'd be no, if I want to play rugby, I want to play to be the best. I don't want to play for fun. and same, I don't watch it. I kind of find it more interesting sometimes. Like I said, I watch Match of the Day mainly because I just like the goals, because I can't watch 90 minutes solidly. Haven't got the attention span for it, but because it's like something different, so it's kind of like you learn that. And like with my son, if he wants to play rugby, that's awesome. If he wants to do ballet, that's like awesome. I don't really mind what he does. I kind of think like sometimes if he plays rugby, I'll be more like critical, like, oh, why is he rubbish? Like, he should be good, like make him better. But yeah, so like I think if I could go back in time and like play another game or something, I would. But like now, yeah, I don't miss like traveling up to Darlington and things like that, or go away for 2 weeks with the squad. And as much as like I love the girls I played with, they were awesome, it was good crack. Like now I wouldn't want to leave my family for 2 weeks. So yeah, it's kind of just having different values and different priorities.
Yeah, definitely. I know what you mean. So coming away from that slightly, so if I've researched correctly, did you go to uni? You did talk
I did,
about uni.
yes.
Like, what was was it before or after, or?
Yeah, so I went to Hart Uni because it was based right by Saracens, so I can still play at my club. Yes, the year I started uni, so I started uni in September, October, when most people do. I'd got selected for actually, I don't even think I had got selected for the elite. I got capped like in sort of October, November, and never thought I'd get capped at that stage. So yeah, my uni life was suddenly like, oh wow, I'm actually going away and we're playing against New Zealand, or we're doing these things, which was awesome. And uni was great because you have so much time to train, and my life was just training and like doing my studies. So I didn't go out, which meant I had loads of time. Like people worry about deadlines. I was like, we've had like 3 months to do this. Like, just do it straight away and focus on something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't have like the normal uni life where you're going out, getting drunk 3 times a week. But it meant I had more money because of that. But yeah, and I did sport and exercise science because I was like, oh, I'm good at rugby, so let's do a sports degree. And then realised it was very scientific.
Yeah.
Backfired.
Oh wow. Did you how did it go? Did you get a degree from it, or?
Yeah, I got a 2-1 specialised in performance, which is when and that's another thing why I did the PT, and I love like all of that side because it's performance based, and took that into my training.
Oh, awesome. And obviously we've touched on you playing for England, which is amazing. Talk to me about that experience, obviously putting the shirt on and obviously playing at that high level with obviously people of the same caliber as well. So how was that experience for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'd wanted. I'd started playing rugby when I was about 7-8 years old. So I think from the age of probably 11 or 12, when you like start to get good and start to go further, that was just my aim. And I wanted to be capped before I was 20, and I got captained on the 5th of November when I was 19, and my birthday's like end of November. So I was like, I made it just before. But yeah, I mean, I had quite a smooth time into England until the very last bit. So I did under 20s, did really well in that. And then it was like, you need to be a different position. And my position changed completely. And I was being asked to go into a position where it was like the most competed position. So people like Maggie Alfonsi and people like that who were playing at that time in that position. I was like, well, how am I going to kick out these players and take their share? But luckily they got injured because it's rugby and we all get injured constantly. But yeah, so I got capped a lot quicker than I thought. It was the best experience. And yeah, played against New Zealand like a couple of weeks after being capped, and they were the biggest team in the world at the time. So I mean that was great, playing at Twickenham. Like I've scored at Twickenham, so all of these things are like things that as a child would, like, someone could be like, what do you want to do, what do you want to achieve? Like, it would be massive tick boxes, but it's highs and lows, like, you know, with all sport, you're constantly fighting for that shirt. And it's a shame that like the last time I put on that shirt, I didn't realize it was going to be the last time. And I always thought, I can't wait to put on that shirt again, and just never got that opportunity, obviously.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Obviously, you've achieved a lot, and congratulations on that. In terms of going forward, do you think more help is needed for athletes when it comes to retirement and transitioning, whether it be young, old, or middle of their career? I know obviously Harper Wood's there, and there's a few others that are around doing great things as well. But do you think more is needed? I'm talking from everyone, so parents, kind of the athletes themselves, organisations, the clubs that people are associated with, everyone really.
I think I think parents need to be better educated. I think in a sense, because I think a lot of parents are like, oh yeah, like my kid's going to make it, and like they don't think of the what happens if they don't, or what happens if they get injured, that side. Or some parents are the complete opposite. My mum was like, you need a degree, you need to like this and this and this, because you're not going to make money doing that, which is fair enough because it was amateur. She was right. I think, do you know what I think? There's so many like obviously we do a lot, so that's just people becoming aware of us. I think the governing bodies are doing amazing. I think the issue predominantly is with the athletes, and I can say that because I know just from myself. It's like you've got the help. It's using it, and like not being like athletes. Like I'm too busy to network or to do a bit of work experience or to do a qualification or something like that. It's like you don't realize how much time you have as an athlete until you have a full-time job and you have a family and things like that. And I remember like short training days, and then you just go home. You'd have a line in the morning. I come up at 5 every morning, like opening up the laptop. So I think it's one of those things. I think athletes need to be more aware of the opportunities they're actually given. Like the opportunity to network is massive. And I know, I mean, like I was 23. I was planning on retiring when I was mid-30s. I never thought I would be retiring so young. Even like now, I'm still shocked by it. But like, and I had a degree behind me. I had work experience behind me because I had to, obviously, because we were amateur at the time. Or going into pro at the time anyway. So I think it's kind of athletes, and I think that's why athletes listening to athletes is massive, because it's like learn from our mistakes, learn from what they're saying, like go and speak to like athletes that like go and speak to these companies, like they're really keen on hiring athletes, or speak to companies like us, or speak to lifestyle practitioners, get an idea of what you want to do. So should the worst happen, you know what you're going to do, because either way that transition is going to be awful no matter what, if you pick it, if you don't. But make it as smooth as possible for yourself. Don't get to an age where you haven't thought about anything, or you suddenly get that injury and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, I've got no income and I've got a mortgage and things like that. So I think it's like athletes being aware of what they've got and actually doing it, instead of just expecting like it to come to them, or I'll worry about it, I'll know if my career is going to start to come to an end, because the majority of us won't.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, and again, 100% resonate with everything you said there. Really appreciate you coming on. Obviously enjoyed the chat. Great insight to kind of your transition and obviously what you're doing now. If you want to just let us know again where you're currently working, what you're currently doing, obviously with your PT, and also where we can find you on the socials, please.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, don't worry about the PT guys, because if you're listening, you're probably a really fit athlete, so probably fitter than me. But yeah, so currently working at Harper Wood Consulting. So check us out. We've got new website, awesome video where it will show you athletes that have gone through exactly the same and that are now smashing it. So it is doable, it is done, and you can smash it in that next career. So check out our socials. All over Harper Wood, LinkedIn, Insta, and then, I mean, to be fair, you don't want to follow me on Insta and things. You'll just see pictures of my son. To be honest, you're a really cute 10-month-old. Hannah Gallagher is the one. But yeah, so yeah, check us out, because if we can help any athletes if you're still competing, if you competed 20 years ago, always happy to chat.
Brilliant. No, that's awesome. And again, obviously keep up the good work. And appreciate you coming on. Keep in touch along the way, and we'll go from there.
Pleasure. No, thanks, guys. Thanks, Danny.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.